So welcome back guys to We Talk Boxing, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the fight which took place between Callum Smith and Joshua Buatsi. Now this was pretty much the first fight on the last crescendo which saw the main event between Dmitry Bivol and Artur Beterbiev, which took place later on in the night. Now the fight itself for me on a personal note was possibly the second best fight of the night. Prior to the main event taking place, for me it was the best fight. It was the most competitive fight and most exciting fight that was on the whole bill. And it was that exciting that I just generally couldn't take my eyes off the fight. Now, the fight didn't really play out how I personally thought it was going to play out. A little bit disappointing in Joshua Buatsi's performance. That's just more on my personal point of view, and he may be disappointed as well in his own performance. But I just genuinely didn't think he was going to fight how he kind of fought that fight. He just couldn't. He just couldn't get hold of Callum Smith. He couldn't push him back. He just looked. He looked like he was struggling. He didn't know what to do with him, and in my pre-fight video, for me, this was like the make or break of Callum Smith, but also potentially the coming out of Joshua Buatsi, because having a name like Callum Smith on your record is big. Do you know what I mean? And that will push you up there in terms of credibility in a very hot competitive division at the minute, because we now know there's other big names that have entered the scene in terms of the light heavyweights. So you have someone like Callum Smith on your record, that's just gonna like give you a lot more to go against in terms of making big fights and stuff like that, because you've fought against someone quite very good, very decent. But let's give props to where props is due, and the props there is to Callum Smith. It was a sensational performance, and it was potentially the best performance that I've seen Callum Smith fight for a while. Honestly, like Callum Smith looked like he rolled back the years, and what I mean by that, prior to that fight, what we saw against Joshua Buatsi, he rolled back the years like when he fought John Ryder. It was that sort of performance, and it was very devastating for Joshua Buatsi, because for both guys, that fight would have took a lot out of them in terms of energy, brutality, the punishment that each guy took. Do you know what I mean? They had to go to places that they never potentially thought they would have had to have gone in this fight. So, yeah, hats off goes to Callum Smith. It was a brilliant performance, and the thing with Callum Smith is he likes people to come on to him and to stay close with him, because he likes to whip them short hooks and uppercuts in. But what was sensational about his performance against Joshua Buatsi is that he was often throwing threes, fours, fives, and sometimes even six punch combinations, and Joshua Buatsi just couldn't block them. Now, don't get me wrong, Joshua Buatsi had his success in the fight, and he hurt Callum Smith on a few occasions, but Callum Smith hurt him a lot more. Now, there was one point in the fight, I think it was round 5 or round 6, I can't remember off the top of the head because the whole show was that good, that I thought that Joshua Buatsi was done. I think it was round 5. Don't quote me. I was watching, I was like, yo, Joshua Buatsi's going to go here. Callum Smith has got him. And then Joshua Buatsi pulled out a sensational counter, and it stunned Callum Smith, and it rocked him, and his legs went. Joshua Buatsi was lethargic in following it up. He thought, nah, I'll get him a little bit later. I'm not going to rush in, sort of thing. Whereas other fighters probably would have tried to jump on that opportunity, because up until that point, he was all Callum Smith. So if that would have happened, let's say if that was Deontay Wilder fighting someone and he would have stunned someone in their track, he would have tried to have jumped on him, because he think, you know what, this is my opportunity. But Buatsi was like, nah, I'll wait for a minute, and it was a bad decision. I'm not sure if that was down to fitness. I'm not sure if that was him just a little bit timid, because he thought, you know what, I'm not feeling too great here. If I jump in and take a little shot, I'm gonna go because, as I said, he looked prior to that big shot, he looked as if he was out. But yeah, brilliant fight. Pretty much could be up there for fight of the year. Obviously, the main event for me was the best fight of the night because it was that competitive between two light heavyweights. You know, what I mean, two guys that are very very similar in terms of styles, in terms of credibility, durability, power, strength, everything. You know what I mean, and that's between the two main event guys. But this fight will live long in terms of British fight fans' memories. Now, I would love to see a rematch between these two, but there's no need at this stage. You know what I mean? Callum Smith wants to become a world title holder again, and if he puts on performances like how he did against Joshua Buatsi, I think he can do it. Now, I did mention at the start of the video that the light heavyweight division is very competitive at the minute. Now, we saw last night that all the belts have changed hands. Now, prior to last night, Artur Beterbiev was the main man in the division. He had all the belts. Now, Dmitry Bivol has all the belts. Now, I guarantee that one, maybe two of those belts are going to get stripped because there's going to be no way on earth that Dmitry Bivol is going to be able to fight two mandatories. It's just not really going to happen within a short space of time. So I don't know which belt, but some of those belts are going to get stripped. Now, the fight between Callum Smith and Joshua Buatsi, that was for the interim WBO. Now, it kind of makes sense for that belt for Dmitry Bivol to maybe be stripped, which will technically elevate Callum Smith to being the world champion. But you've also got David Benavidez. Now, David Benavidez is the world light heavyweight champion for the WBA and the interim champion for the WBC. Now, could we potentially see Dmitry Bivol keep the WBC and WBA and maybe vacate the IBF and potentially the WBO because he would have his mandatories called in those? Now, in terms of the IBF, there's a guy called Michael Effiert, if I said his name right. So he will be looking for his shot, and no doubt will Callum Smith. And as I said, you can't fight both of those fights, so one of them are going to get stripped, and it just depends on which one will get stripped. So yeah, it's interesting division, but some big fights there. This ain't it for Joshua Buatsi. There's still talent there. There's still something there. I just feel at times that he needs to work a little bit harder, give a little bit more in the fights. And honestly, how he fought in his last fight, I just need to jog my memory a second. So give me a second. So Joshua Buatsi, who did he fought last time out? Willie Hutchinson. How did I forget? Anyhow, so how he fought against Willie Hutchinson last time out? I genuinely thought that's how he was going to bring it to Callum Smith, but it wasn't to be. Now, if he could somehow capture that performance how he fought against Willie Hutchinson, then I have confidence that he will be up there and he will be in the big fights, Joshua Buatsi. But if he fights how he fought against Callum Smith, then I don't think he will be up there because that was a lackluster performance. And if you really want to be a world champion, no disrespect to Callum Smith, but you need to be adding people like Callum Smith to your name. Like, if you look at what Artur Beterbiev did to him, different class. Look what Canelo Alvarez did to him, different class. Now, I would favour Benavidez versus Callum Smith. Like, if they fought, I would favour Benavidez to do destruction on Callum Smith because he's got a similar style to Beterbiev and Canelo Alvarez. And even if Bivol fought Callum Smith, I'd favour Bivol as well. So what I'm trying to say is that if you want to be the best, sometimes you have to be able to give that a little bit more. Now, this is only the first loss in Joshua Buatsi's career. So I've got full confidence that he can come back from it. But it's all up to him. It's all up to him. But Callum Smith certainly should either be elevated to world champion or be able to fight against Dmitry Bivol next for the world title. But these are my thoughts, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How did you see this fight? And Are you like me? Would you like to see Callum Smith be elevated or fight for the title next? But there is one more thing before I go. Very, very, very disappointed in the scorecards. Now, the scorecards were shambolic. I don't know what the referees were seeing. You know what I mean? One of the referees gave it 119, 110. How could you give it 119, 110 to Callum Smith? Like, crazy. You know what I mean? The other scorecards were respectable, 116, 112, and 115, 113, so a little bit more respectable there. But that massive gap, it's crazy. So the judging needs to be better. And I'll talk about that in the other videos as well, because some of the other judging scorecards were controversial. But as always, please subscribe and comment. Bless.